September. This game at Old Trafford last April, finished 0-0, which I have absolutely no memory of, by the way, but it's 14-1 for a repeat of that scoreline. And interestingly, Michael Carrick's last game against Manchester City came in 2017. That was 0-0 as well, so maybe there's something in that. I would like to think there'll be goals, though. It's a big game in the dugout, obviously, for United. 3 points will be massive for either team, obviously. I actually think, though, all things considered, City are a really good price here, just around evens. There is so much going on at United at the moment. I think they're there for a taking with a ruthless City side at the moment. So City to win, 4 or more goals in the game, and both teams to score, and a Semenyo goal as well. That's a 7-1 bet builder. In terms of the rest of the value on Saturday, I'll just touch on Arsenal. I think against Forest. Forest really struggling now, very much in a relegation scrap at the moment. Certainly showing relegation form right now. Lost 4 of their last 5. They've just lost to Wrexham. They've now got the best team in the country. So Arsenal to win by 3 or more goals, away from home granted, but that's 7-2. You could also chuck in West Ham and Tottenham, both teams to score. Always seems to happen in that game. That double is also around 7-1 with Ladbrokes.
Alex, thank you very much. Best of luck for tomorrow night. That was Alex Patty from Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over. BeGambleAware.org.
Odds update on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus. GambleAware.org.
You are tuning in to kick off on talkSPORT. On the way next, we'll bring you all the very latest transfer news with our man in the know. That is Ben Jacobs. That's coming up in just a few minutes.
There's something wrong with the culture at Spurs, and the senior players must take responsibility for their poor run of form. That's according to former Tottenham player and coach Gus Poyet.
I think life at Tottenham, as a Tottenham player, is too easy. You cannot be so good to win a European competition and finish 17th in the league.
Well, Spurs have appointed Carlos Rafael Mawson, known as Rafi, as Director of Football Operations. Now, Liam Rosenior has put Robert Sanchez's mistakes down to how he's asking his Chelsea keeper to play. Meanwhile, former Blues defender Scott Minto has given his verdict on the new boss.
I do understand the Chelsea fans of saying, perhaps his CV hasn't justified being a Chelsea manager, but we live in different times now. And all I would ask for is give him a chance.
We understand Sir Jim Ratcliffe and owners Joel and Avram Glazer are all in Manchester to show Michael Carrick's support. His first game in charge of Man United is home to City this Saturday lunchtime. That's live on talkSPORT. But former England assistant Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank says the perfect permanent manager at Old Trafford is actually Gareth Southgate.
Because he is good with the press, he's good with the players, he's good with young players. He knows the game inside and out.
And out of favour, England off-spinner Shoaib Bashir has joined Derbyshire on a 2-year deal.
This is Kickoff. Welcome along on talkSPORT with the former Lioness, that is Lianne Sanderson, and me, Natalie Sawyer. We're taking you through until 10 o'clock. Keep your texts and messages, and if you want to phone us up, you're more than welcome to talk about recruitment. We've been asking for you to maybe big up your club's recruitment. Who has been the unsung hero when it comes to the positive side of signings? That's kind of what we're looking for, because as Lianne was saying a little bit earlier on, we're often so critical of those that don't work out. But let's big up the good ones, shall we? And you might also just want to flag up another club, and maybe you want to just say, they do such good things. I mean, Lianne, you were talking about Declan Rice, and I don't think there would be anyone that would be negative about Declan Rice, because he is just... We all know what he does week in, week out for Arsenal. He's just so important to them.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing we're looking for. So 1889 is the text number. The WhatsApp or the phone number is 03717 223344. We'd love to hear from you, and loads of you getting in touch already. Do you want to give a little flavour?
Yeah, there's one that's come in from Barry. It says Mahrez 450k to Leicester, surely up there.
Good call.
Company to City for 6 mil. Fabregas to Arsenal for 2.25 mil. Someone saying, great show, guys. Praise Newcastle's recruitment. Not a great summer, but players like Tonali, Joel Linton, Livramento, Hall, Barnes, Bruno Guimaraes, so many greats. That's sent in from Russell. So, some great shouts.
Some really good shouts, and you can get involved as well, like I say, to get in touch with us, and we'll read them out throughout. And if you want to chat to us, then give us a call. By the way, the latest episode of How to Win the World Cup is out now. Matt Ford and Alex Brooker speak to the French World Cup winner, that is Emmanuel Petit, about Mavericks, and in particular the iconic Zinedine Zidane, who won the trophy alongside Petit in 1998.
What's his personality like?
Very shy.
Shy?
Yeah, he's very shy. He doesn't talk much. In the dressing room, you never hear about anything. He never talks to anyone. He's got very good links with a few players, They are very close to him. But on the pitch, he's even in a newspaper, he's the kind of guy, this is something different with top players nowadays. I think Messi is kind of like that as well.
Yes.
Doesn't like to talk to the press. Doesn't like to express his opinion all the time. He's tired of people asking him questions about what about this, what about that. He doesn't want to do that. The only thing he wants to do is to talk on the pitch with the ball. And for me, this is something back in days the great players have in common,
Well, I'm sure that's really fascinating to listen to in more detail. But on the subject of Mavericks, got to ask you then, Lianne, your favourite?
I mean, I can narrow it down, but I've got about 10. We're going to go with Dennis Bergkamp. I mean, he's my greatest ever player outside of Manchester United. Love Dennis Bergkamp. I used to go to Highbury, watch him warm up. I used to go to the training ground. I used to clean his boots. Love Dennis Bergkamp.
Was he a nice...
Yeah.
When you say cleaning his boots, so he was a nice guy to be around as well?
Yeah. We had we were sponsored by the men's team, so we were kind of Vic Akers was our the kit manager of the men at the time, and I was only young, and he knew I loved Dennis Bergkamp, so go in there and all that. So it was great. But I love those types of players. If we want to talk about Mavericks like Zola, I don't think players like Zola, Di Canio, growing up, those types of players were why I used to watch Match of the Day every single Saturday night, because they were the types of players that get you off your seats.
Do we have that anymore? That kind of maverick.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think it's going out of the game because you don't even see players now trying to beat people 1v1. Football's changed. The goalkeeper touches the ball now more than the midfield. So football has changed. But I think, you know, growing up, the players that I've watched growing up, like I was very blessed because when I was at Arsenal, you know, I was there during the Invincible season, top quality players. And I love watching proper footballers, you know, like that just get you off your seats, make you want to go there. And I used to go there sometimes I'd go to Man United games, get there so early just to watch Paul Scholes hit the balls in the warm-up. Do you know what I mean? Like, because the repetition and pinging of the ball, like, I know it sounds like I'm a bit like you know what I'm like with football.
No, I know what you mean though, but especially in that circumstance, I imagine when you hear it as well, you know they've hit it perfectly every time.
Also, can I just throw out there Hazard as well? Hazard, like he is, and I played football with him the other month for Great Ormond Street Hospital, Goals for Gosh, and he was like, he looked like he could still play now. Do you know what I mean? The movement and like, I think
he
Hazard
always could jink his way around.
He was probably one of the best at that time when he was at Chelsea. He's got to be up there with top 3 best players in the world at that time. Like, I think sometimes people suffer with recentism where they only think about the now and they think, oh, this player's the greatest player. Even Declan Rice, who I love, has said, don't put me almost in those categories of Steven Gerrard and Lampard because we need him to do it for longer periods of time.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like those players consistently did it for years and years, globally and in the Premier League.
Well, as I say, I'm sure that's a fascinating listen on the how to win the World Cup. It's available on talkSPORT's YouTube channel and on all available podcast platforms, even including the talkSPORT app. Okay, let's bring you the latest transfer news now with Intuit QuickBooks.
Transfer window. Breaking news on talkSPORT with Intuit QuickBooks. Tackle your self-assessment with Intuit QuickBooks. Search QuickBooks to find out more.
I'm pleased to say joining us to bring us all the very latest from this January transfer window, it's Ben Jacobs. How you doing, Ben?
Natalie, Lianne, good evening.
Hi, Ben.
Ben, let's get straight to it because although it still feels like it's a quiet window, there's still a few, rumblings going on, shall we say. And Bournemouth, no doubt, having to look for some replacements now. They lost Antoine Semenyo, for example. So what's the latest on them?
Yeah, it's a bit quiet, I suppose, if you're a buying club, but it's less quiet if you're a manager, given the crazy movement that we had in the first week of January. But yeah, Bournemouth are looking to replace Antoine Semenyo. Part of the reason why the clause, even though it was matched rather than triggered by Manchester City, expired on the 10th of January, was to give Bournemouth basically the second half of this month to look at replacements. They've been in the market for some more established names. But one profile on their radar is Lianne, who is very similar to Antoine Semenyo, still only a teenager, might need a little bit of time, therefore. And Bournemouth are currently in advanced talks with Vasco da Gama, his Brazilian club. The Brazilian side wants somewhere in the region of £30 million or about 35 million euros. Bournemouth's verbal offer, which was placed in the last 12 hours, is lower than that number. But there is some optimism that this one could get over the line between now and when the window shuts.
Ben, I want to ask you this one that caught me by surprise. Is Daniel Marlon going to Roma from Aston Villa? Like, he's on the flight, he's on the plane. We've seen, with the fans in Rome. Like, that one caught me off guard a little bit. Like, often he starts for Villa, then he's getting minutes when he's coming off the bench, and he's doing bits for them, I feel like.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, and it definitely was an element of surprise to it. But the sort of puzzling nature from Villa's perspective is perhaps offset by the fact the player's perspective is really clear. He doesn't want to be a creative, floating 10-second striker, get out into wide areas. His number one priority is to go and be a leading number 9, and that's exactly what Roma are looking for, whereas at Aston Villa, all they can really offer him in the 9 position is to be a deputy to Ollie Watkins, assuming that he's fit. And this is why, from Aston Villa's perspective, they were prepared to sanction the move, coupled with the fact that it's about a £2 million loan fee, 25 million conditional obligation that will be triggered because it's only based, to my knowledge, on a handful of appearances. And with that money, plus the budgeted money for Harvey Elliott that Aston Villa are not going to spend, they can now be really aggressive in the market. Danny Ceballos is one name that has been mentioned, and certainly an inquiry has been made there. But Tammy Abraham as well could be one to watch. And of course, he's contracted to Roma. So in doing the Malin deal, they've discussed an element of Abraham. And the only reason why I say a element is because they also have to go to Besiktas, where Abraham is on loan, get him out of there first, And if Besiktas agree to send him back to Roma, then from there, the club-to-club negotiation between Roma and Aston Villa is believed to be something that will be a relatively smooth process. And the fee might be between about 12 and 15 million pounds.
Okay, so that's one to watch as well. What about the future of Lucas Paquetá? Are we any wiser on what's going to happen with him?
It's a really sort of complicated one, this, because Paqueta's position is clear. He's agreed a 4-year deal with Flamengo. He wants to go back. He's made that clear to West Ham United. But from the Hammers' perspective, of course, they'd prefer to keep him until the end of the season and see whether he can help them stay up in the Premier League and then sanction a sale. If they do that, they could have an unhappy player, but also the value could go down should West Ham get relegated. So West Ham's solution is essentially to say to Flamengo, you can have him now as long as we agree it in January, and then he's loaned back until the end of the season. Flamengo have countered and said they will make a second bid. First offer rejected for about £34 million, but they want Paquetá immediately. And it's a bit of a standoff at the moment, but what adds an extra and different layer to most winter transfers is the Brazilian window shuts in March. So there may be a middle ground here where West Ham can try and just delay negotiations right up until when the Brazilian window shuts. And by that point, they'll at least have got a couple more months out of Paquetá. But it's also sort of contingent on whether the player is going to buy into that and be patient. Because if he continues to agitate for a move, then it's not really going to be in West Ham's interest to just deny him that move and be stuck in a relegation battle with an unhappy player.
Yeah, my last one, Ben, to you is about Mark Gahey. It's been a topic of conversation, obviously, for a long time now. Where's he going to go?
Well, it's not just where he's going to go, but if he's going to go in the winter. And if there is to be a twist where Crystal Palace get a sale now, Manchester City are the ones really pushing, and they may well make a formal bid. But our understanding on talkSPORT is that the valuation from Crystal Palace of Mark Gahey is actually higher than the £35 million that Liverpool agreed over the summer. And that's because they need to use that money to also fund a late window replacement. If City move, then we'll find out whether Liverpool or Arsenal, Bayern, Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid, Inter Milan decide that they have to enter the race now. But it's equally as likely that Gahey turns around to Man City and says, if I just wait until the summer, I can still join you. I can have my pick of other clubs as well. So Gahey needs convincing, even if there is a club-to-club agreement in place between Crystal Palace and Manchester City. And my information is that City may try, but Gahey at this point is still leaning towards leaving in the summer rather than right now.
All right. Ben, as always,
Thanks,
informative. Ben. Thank you very much. That was Ben Jacobs with the latest transfer news from Intuit Quick Books. OK, up next, we're going to start to look at two Premier League giants who are struggling to live up to their lofty status as we ask, how has life got so bad for Manchester United and Tottenham too? The Manchester United side of things will be interesting with
I'm
Lianne.
leaving. See you later.
No, you're fully involved in this one. Are there any reasons to be optimistic? Doesn't sound so with Lianne and Manchester United, or are things likely to get worse before they can get better? We'll get stuck into both clubs next. This is Kickoff on talkSPORT with former Arsenal women's striker Lianne Sanderson and me, Natalie Sawyer. We're taking you through until the sports bar at 10. And this is a show where we want you to get involved as well, whether that's through ringing us up to have a chat or sending us a text or a WhatsApp. And in particular, we're talking about recruitment, and maybe it's a chance for you to flag up the good recruitment. Because so often we're critical, aren't we, of the teams that don't get it right. But what about those that have got it right? And loads of you have been getting in touch, so thank you very much. And a little bit, well, shortly we're going to be talking about the situation of Manchester United and Tottenham, and I'm sure both Man United and Tottenham fans
I'm just going to read out text during the whole show, so we skip that segment.
She's still going. No, Lianne, no, okay, keep going. Yeah, I would love you to get involved in that as well and give us your view on everything. But on the subject of recruitment, here's just a sample of what we've received. Jack, a Chelsea fan, talking about Eden Hazard, which you mentioned a little bit early on as a Maverick. He says, for me as a Chelsea fan, the last signing I went, wow, that is a steal, was Hazard. He says, great show and a happy new year. And I think Hazard cost around 30 odd million or something, and then they went on to sell him for 130 something.
Real Madrid, yeah,
mega bucks. So yeah, and as you rightly pointed out, Lianne, what a player he was for Chelsea. Nick the Red says, from a Liverpool perspective, in recent times, you got to big up Virgil, Salah, Mane, Suarez, Firmino. Yeah, we can all agree on that. And then also, there was no name on this one, but link with another Sunderland fan. First of all, the anonymous one says, look no further than Sunderland's fantastic recruitment. And then David, the Sunderland fan, says, clearly Xhaka is the signing of the season, Lianne.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with those ones as well. I'm loving this one from Andy. Super John McGinn, 3.5 mil from Hibs. And there's actually a question here for you, Natalie, sent in from Duncan. And he says, as a Brentford fan, what's your viewpoint on Jordan Henderson?
Well, do you know what? When there was talk about him coming to Brentford, I kind of was one of those thinking, why do we want Jordan Henderson? I mean, I was obviously wrong, because he has been brilliant, especially the start of the season when he was playing. And it was one of those kind of players where Keith Andrews only kind of gave him, 60, 70 minutes, something like that. And there was at a point where you kept thinking to yourself, keep him on for the night. We need him to stay on for the 90 minutes to help us see out games. Now, you fast forward to where we are now, Jordan Henderson doesn't start games, but he still comes on, and you need that sort of wily experience that he brings to a football side. So I think he's been brilliant, especially as we lost Christian Norgard, our captain, who's been our captain ever since we were promoted. Well, that's not quite right, because Pontus Jansson was our captain before that, but had been our captain for a couple of years, and no one thought Christian Norgard was going to leave in the summer, like he ended up doing so, going to Arsenal. So I think to bring in someone like Jordan Henderson was just clever recruitment.
Remember, I'm not having him, right? We had this conversation on the show before, but tell me what it is he does that you've turned your opinion around. What is it that he does?
Do you know what it is? It's leadership, because we are actually quite a young team. So to have him on that pitch, as I say, for 90 minutes, as he was doing for a period of time, I think was just so important to help us see through games. And I don't know if you remember during the COVID times when obviously football was still being played and we were able to watch it on the telly, but obviously no fans were there. He was so vocal in that Liverpool team that you see it obviously now to this day in the Brentford team. And that's all down to that leadership. It's also about knowing how to manage a game through to the end, knowing that there's someone on that pitch that can help direct, can help basically just lead.
There's obviously something in that.
And also, actually, there are sometimes some of the balls that he can play. I mean, he's been incredible with some of the stuff that he can do on the pitch still. So I just think he's just been an exceptional bit of recruitment for us, especially as he was a freebie as well.
And to be fair, I'll still stand by my opinion. I'm not having him as a top player, but there must be something in it. The fact that he gets picked for England consistently. Obviously at Liverpool, his players respect him. He seems to be a really good captain and a good leader. So maybe you're right. I'm not saying I think he's a terrible player. That's not what I'm saying. But I just never understood, this whole thing around Jordan Henderson. What was it Roy Keane said before? What does he do? You know what I mean? Orchestrating, all these different things. But I think, there has to be something in it.
What is he? He's 35? And I think, obviously, I know players now are going later on in their careers in terms of age. But I still think at 35, if you can be playing for 90 minutes near enough week in, week out, I think that goes to show you're a pretty good pro to have around as well. I think it's just those little things that I think he just adds to our Brentford team, who, as I say, are quite young. But at this present moment, like I say, he's not starting. And I think hopefully he's dealing with that all right and he's still being that exceptional pro. And then when he's called upon to come on like he is doing, he's doing good things for us. So, I can't grumble with that one at all. I think he's done really well.
Jordan Henderson fan club.
I know. Who'd have thought it? By the way, Zach, an Everton fan, has also been in touch. He says, hands down, I think that Jordan Pickford has done wonders coming from Sunderland, and in the last 6 to 7 years has been one of the best keepers worldwide.
Yeah, it's a difficult one with Pickford, isn't it? Because I don't feel like he gets really the praise he deserves. But there's something to be said about the fact that he's consistently been England #1 for a really long time. I mean, the fact that he plays for Everton, I know people, I don't agree with that. The fact that, I still like Aaron Ramsdale and people think I'm crazy. Do you know what I mean? Because I've always thought he was a good goalkeeper. People say, he gets relegated every team he goes to. Well, it's not just him, is it? There's like 10 other players on the outfield. But I think, there has to be something to be said about Jordan Pickford because I don't think he probably gets the credit he deserves, really.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. And do you know what? There was a period where he was, especially when he was younger, seemed a little bit, how do I describe it? Scatty at times. Yeah, exactly. And I think that has levelled out. He's obviously matured. And you're right. Doesn't put a foot wrong really for England. So that's a good call from Zach as well. If you want to get in touch, then do send us a text at 81089 or WhatsApp us on 03 717 223344. Right now, though, it's competition time.
Be there for Super Bowl 60 on talkSPORT.
Yeah, our latest competition has landed, and this is your chance to be at the greatest show on earth. So some might say. That is the Super Bowl on Sunday, the 8th of February. As well as a pair of tickets, we're chucking in flights to San Francisco, 3 nights accommodation, and spending money too. So you are covered. You might want a pen and paper. This is how you enter. For your chance to win, you can text the word WIN to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or call this number, and this is where you need the pen and paper, 0343 418 7260. That's 0343 418 7260. Lines close on the 22nd of January 2026, of course, this year at 4 p.m. And that's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. It's only for 18 and over and only UK residents. And this is a network promotion. Full T's and C's can be found at talksport.com. But once again, for your chance to win, text the word WIN to 83338 now. OK, next up, we've delayed it as long as we can, Lianne. We're going to have to talk about Manchester United and put them under the microscope. Will this season's troubles give the club the wake-up call that it needs, or is it just going to get worse before it gets better for the Red Devils? That's next on Kickoff on talkSPORT. But if you want to get in touch, United fans, 03 717 223344.
Gus Poyet has told us life at Spurs is too comfy for the senior players. He's now urging them to step up their leadership.
You listen to the coach, the basics, and then you play the game. You make decisions, depending on how you feel, depending on what you do at the moment. We're losing that kind of leaders on the pitch to make the team react and do things that you need at that moment in time.
Well, it's ahead of a must-win for Thomas Frank against West Ham on Saturday, where Conor Gallagher could make his Spurs debut. Meanwhile, Tottenham have confirmed the former Everton defender Johnny Heitinga is Thomas Frank's new assistant. He helped Liverpool win the league in the same role last year before Ajax sacked him as head coach in November. Elsewhere, Liam Rosenior is taking positives from Chelsea's League Cup loss to Arsenal. He's praised the energy, attitude and intensity shown by his players. But Simon Jordan says they're light years behind Arsenal right now.
If you look at that Chelsea side, there's nothing about it that gives you the feeling that they've got steel and resilience and resolve. They've got good players and they can hone that into a good side if they get the blend right. But I think Enzo Fernandez is becoming part of a mature part of Chelsea.
Now, we've asked former Chelsea defender Mario Melchiot how a manager earns the trust of that dressing room.
When he stands in front of the team and things go bad or good, you want him to have the solutions. The moment when you don't feel like he has solutions or clear objectives, that's when we start questioning him.
Former Chelsea striker Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank says the perfect permanent manager at Man United is Gareth Southgate. We've also asked the Dutchman if he's surprised Southgate has steered clear of the dugout since leaving the England job.
In a way, yes, but on the other hand, no. He will take his time. Very smart guy. I think it will have to be right for him. The feeling has to be really, really good. He's not going to jump into something quickly.
And Steve Smith has surprisingly backed England's refusal to play a pink ball test in the next Ashes tour down under. Australia have won all 4 pink ball tests against England, but Smith doesn't think it's needed in the Ashes because the attendances take care of themselves.
Good evening, I'm Natalie Sawyer and this is Kickoff on talkSPORT. It is the former Lioness Lianne Sanderson who is alongside me, and thank you very much for all of your texts so far and WhatsApp messages too. We will get to them throughout the show, but keep them coming into us on the best signings, the best recruitment. You might want to just flag up a club. I know some people have already, like Sunderland for this season, definitely being given the thumbs up, but you might want to contribute another club that we haven't as of yet talked about. Please do get in touch. 81089 is the text number. The WhatsApp is 0371722 3344. Now though, 2 clubs with checkered histories, known for brilliant players, exciting football and, well, trophy cabinets too, but not quite at their peak at this present moment. In particular, Manchester United, that is Lianne's club, struggling, as are Tottenham, who find themselves a little bit lost, floundering and struggling to find a clear identity on and off the pitch. Only a few months ago, these 2 teams competed in the Europa League final, but both are being massively overshadowed by the success of their city rivals. So what has gone wrong and how do they recapture their former glories? And one thing is for sure, it's not going to happen overnight.
Brentford 0, Tottenham 0. It's finished Tottenham Hotspur 1, Sunderland 1. Bournemouth 3, Tottenham 2. Boos from the home fans. Villa are into the 4th round of the FA Cup, and it's yet more home disappointment for Thomas Frank and Spurs.
We are in a situation where we are keep improving things. Even if we don't get results, I think it's important to look into the level of performance, especially the second half.
Oh, and there's a fracas at the end of the game. Paulinho and Rodri Archers going head to head. It's getting nasty at the end of this cup tie.
Paulinho has completely lost his head, and I think that just shows you the pressure that is growing here, not just on the manager but on the players.
This is turning into a disastrous season. What next for Manchester United?
I came here to be the manager of Manchester United, not to be the coach of Manchester United.
Ruben Amorim sacked at Manchester United.
I would suggest the performances week in, week out are still not where they should be.
That just makes sense what they've done with Darren Fletcher.
Don't like to make any major decisions or things without speaking to Sir Alex.
This interim is a bit puzzling.
Who's that going to be, do we know?
It's going to be Michael Carrick.
Yeah, it's been a funny old season, you could say, maybe for both clubs.
Stop laughing.
I'm not laughing. I'm
It's
a
not
very
funny.
Stop, you're making me laugh. I'm very measured about all of this. In a word, how do you sum up your club, Manchester United, right now, Lianne?
I'm gutted, Natalie, to be honest, with how the club's being run, everything about it. I know we're going to talk about Spurs and United and the comparisons, but I think we're in a far worse spot with regards to the decision-making off the pitch. Ineos, since they've come in, have gone nowhere near. It's actually got worse, if it's even possible. I was so optimistic, right? I remember I wore my Manchester United shirt in here when Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos took over, and I was like, yeah, we're going to turn the corner.
Yeah.
Glazers, you know, all Man United fans wanted a complete sales from the Glazers. And if anything, it's got worse. The decision-making, I mean, I could spend about 5 hours talking about Man United, but I can't even explain to you my sheer disappointment, hurt, gutted about where the club is at. Because, you know, Darren Fletcher's a good friend of mine, and he's been at the club for years, and I love Fletch. He's a top guy. But I said, whoever is in charge of this Manchester United team, it doesn't matter who's in charge, Natalie. You know, Ruben was there playing a back three, everybody saying, oh, play a back four. How did that work out?
Mm-hmm.
Did we win the game? No. So, you know, I've said this to you and people might laugh, right? I would love to see people like Roy Keane, Gary Neville, Paul Scholes, those types of ex-players, because I love them. You know, I know Gary Neville quite well. Take over Manchester United till the end of the season, right? And I'll tell you why. Because could it get any worse? No. Now, in their managerial careers, hasn't gone anywhere near. You know, Gary Neville didn't work out, Roy Keane didn't work out. But they know the football club. And I'm like, if we're going to give it to Michael Carrick again, and we even interviewed Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I love Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I love singing his name, you know, club legend. But like the fact that we have put him in another interview just about sums it up. Ruben and his staff have paid 27 mil to pay them off. Dan Ashworth was then paid 10 million. Like, what is going on with our football club? So for me, Ineos has just been, I said, like, I don't want to make all these bold statements, like I'm not going to a game until Ineos go, like the guy that said he's not cutting his hair until Man United win 5 in a row. I'm not going to go out there and say that because I love this football club, but I feel so much hurt now about the way the football club's being run, everything about it. I gave my tickets back for the Arsenal game because I can't bring myself to do it. I just can't bring myself because I feel like a lot of those players at that football club don't care enough about the football club. And Jason Wilcox, you know, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Omar Barada, I told you, I sat behind them at the Community Shield last year in the Royal Box, and I was sitting there thinking already, before everything got crazy and got bad, I was like, nah, this isn't Manchester United. I saw David Gill in the same place at Wembley, and I thought, I love this guy. I'm going to go and shake his hand. Do you know what I mean? So our club is in a really, really bad way. Good luck to Michael Carrick. You know, good luck to him. Jonathan Woodgate as well and Steve Holland, good luck to them because anyone that's leading Manchester United, I will back them. But I can't even explain to you how bad it is.
Well, look, I'm sure we'll delve deeper into it, but let's bring a journalist perspective on what it's like covering Manchester United at the moment. As we say, a very good evening to the athletic journalist that covers Manchester United. It's Carl Anker. How are you, Carl?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Yeah,
hi, Carl.
Very well.
Hiya.
I suppose my first question will be, for your job, it's pretty exciting, isn't it? Every day's different.
That's a very interesting use of the word exciting. I'd say I had a lot more hair when Manchester United were winning trophies compared to how I am right now. It's turbulent. Look, this is what happens when you cover the world's most written about football club. You can have disputes as to whether or not the biggest, but they're certainly the most written about and spoken about football club in the world. And I'd say in the last week, I've had requests from reporters in Norway, Denmark, Portugal, all over the world, because everyone wants to know what's going on with Manchester United. And unfortunately, the sensible answer is a lot, and it's rather confusing.
I mean, Carl, good evening, by the way. Myself and Natalie sat in the press conference after the West Ham game.
Yes.
And I remember your question to Ruben Amorim. Now, I'm probably one of the only people that still was having him, to be honest. Like, I backed him. I thought we can't keep sacking managers. And I remember your question to him, I said to Natalie, was brilliant. And he kept saying he doesn't know. And after that press conference, I said to Natalie, I think he's on bided time here. Do you know what I mean? Because his attitude in the press conferences seemed to change. You know, he always seemed pretty respectful to the journalists. But what was your thought after that? Because obviously I haven't spoken to you since then.
My initial thought was I probably didn't phrase that question properly. So that was around about the December period. And Ruben Amorim, as you often do when there's so many interviews back to back to back, so many games back to back to back, you do your post-match and your pre-match at the same go. And I said in the room, Mr. Amorim, you said, I don't know, in response to a lot of questions here, but there are things you do know. How do you go about fixing and improving them? And then he said, when did I say I don't know?
He said it to back you though, Cole. He said it on every single thing. He couldn't even tell us when the players were going to the African Cup of Nations. Like, it weren't like it was rocket science questions. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, the AFCON question was hard because he genuinely didn't know. It was very much between the clubs and the various federations. So that was a fair answer to give there. But I will say the final days of Ruben Amorim it was a marked shift in press conferences. The pre-Leeds press conference and the post-Leeds one he was a lot spikier than he'd normally been. And it ended, of course, with him saying he's going to be the manager of Manchester United. I know I'm not a Tuchel. I know I'm not a Conte. I know I'm not Mourinho, but I'm going to be the manager of Manchester United. And then, well, that's not his job title. He was the head coach. And for two, he was shortly removed afterwards. So it suggests there was some form of breakup of a working relationship between himself and the higher-ups.
Obviously, Carl, I'm sure you were hearing our conversation before we came to you, and Lianne was saying, look, when Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe came in, it felt at that point, when there was talk of them coming in, and then when they did come in, that optimism, there's going to be a positivity about this Manchester United club. Unfortunately, it hasn't really gone that way, and it feels that they've made more wrong decisions than they've made right. Would that be fair?
I would go back to a series of interviews Sir Jim Ratcliffe gave to various press outlets last year? I want to say last year. I'm very sorry. A lot of these just meld in my mind. I believe it was when he was talking to Gary Neville. He talked to the Times. He talked to the BBC, and he called the retaining of Erik ten Hag after the FA Cup final win an error, and he also called the hiring and gardening leave and eventual sacking of Dan Ashworth as an error. And that was his words. He also, in October, talking to the Times Business podcast, said he believes Ruben Amorim deserves. Well, you should get 3 years to prove himself, which is now, 3 months later, he's been removed. So what we are seeing when Ineos first arrived, Sir Jim Ratcliffe talked about best in class and hiring best in class members of staff to take Manchester United to the next level. We had Sir Dave Brailsford, we had Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Blanc from Ineos came over as well. Dan Ashworth was eventually brought in to be the sporting director. Jason Wilcox was the technical director. You had Erik ten Hag. Erik ten Hag was using the term game model a lot in his press conferences, saying a player like Manuel Ugarte fits Manchester United's game model. And then when you would ask him, what is the game model? He didn't really elaborate on that as well. So there was a lot of business speak and buzzwords right at the start of Ineos' arrival, and then the execution of those plans and ideas has been difficult. I've not heard a Manchester United head coach, be it Ten Hag, Amorim, or indeed Fletcher, use the term game model for a while. So that suggests to me that's been quietly, I don't want to say scuttled, but at least pulled back from. We've not seen an update on the proposed new stadium for Manchester United, which again suggests there might be some fine-tuning in how that's going to be funded or how it indeed may look in the end. This is the way of modern business, right? In that very often a billionaire comes across and says, I'm going to do all these amazing things. And then when it's time to deliver on those things, it can be quite hard to do that because, for one, interest rates are a lot higher than they were in 2020.
I could talk about Manchester United till next year, Carl, but I think I just feel really dejected about the overall situation and the decision-making at our football club. Like, is there any optimism that you can give me going forward for this football club?
Are you aware of the phrase hope is a discipline?
No.
Okay. So
I'm a hopeless romantic.
That's nice.
I love Man United.
There you go. So hope is a discipline, and it's something that you have to practice every day. So when I feel sad about things, not just football, but also some of the bigger things in the world, I have to practice hope, and I have to make sure I repeatedly go outside and talk to people and go and be hopeful. So when people are going, oh my goodness, Carrick's only just taken training on Wednesday, and it's the derby on Saturday, and Man City looked really, really good against Newcastle. We're going to get absolutely hockeyed. I'm going, no, come on. I have to believe Manchester United are going to win on Saturday, because if I didn't, then there's no point in me going to Old Trafford on Saturday. So hope is a discipline, and I practice this all the time. So
maybe I'll have to do that then, because I've been feeling really low since this situation. Just one more, Carl, as well. I want to ask you about Steve Holland, because a lot of people have been saying, Steve Holland's come in because Sir Gareth Southgate's going to come in the summer. I'm not quite seeing that. What do you think about that? Because if that was the case, why would they not have come together now?
You are correct, Lianne. That is I think a lot of people are putting 2 and 2 together and getting 222 instead of just looking at it and saying they've just hired a very good assistant manager who is available right now. The easiest way to get Gareth Southgate to become the manager or head coach of Manchester United is to just hire him right now. Yeah. There is no contract or anything else you need to sort out. By nearly every single indication I've got, and I followed England in every single game of Euro 2020, and I was in and around that camp for quite some time. It seems very much clear to me that Gareth Southgate will probably never be a football manager ever again. He's got his knighthood. He's doing his after-dinner talks and doing lectures at Harvard Business School about leadership and empathy, and he's doing very well for himself. Now, why would you risk that lovely head of hair and that fine tailoring managing one of the most chaos-inducing football teams in the world? So there's that. Now let's focus on Steve Holland as a coach, and by all accounts, he is a very, very, very good X's and O's person. He's also got some history in being in chaotic environments due to his time at Chelsea. Now, depending on who you talk.
Oh, we lost him there. Oh, how annoying. Oh, Carl, are you there? Come back. Are you there? Yeah.
Hello?
We lost you just for a second there. So you were just talking about the crazy environment at Chelsea, and then we kind of lost you.
Yes. Now, depending on who you ask, he is either tactically brilliant and you need to listen to him at all costs, which is part of what Southgate's job was during England camp. It was, I'm the really nice person. Just pay attention to Holland. Or he can be elite, and therefore you need to have a nicer balancing quality to do that, which again, part of Southgate's job in the England camp was being, no. Be nice. Listen to him. So, by all accounts, that should be what... It's an interesting plan they've got there. We know how Michael Carrick likes to set a team up, so it's going to be 4-2-3-1. It's going to be one fullback.
Just keeps...
gets really forward, one fullback tucks. It's not going to be high pressing. It's going to be a 4-4-2. Hopefully, it should be really compact. We're asking a lot from the 33-year-old Casemiro to sweep things up. But I'll be really interested to see what Carrick makes of Mainu and Seshko. So,
well, as you say, not long to wait. Just Saturday, in fact, lunchtime for that Manchester derby. Carl, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks,
Thank
Carl.
you. And I think we're all going to use that mantra of hope is a discipline.
I mean, he's given me some hope.
I like that.
What you're saying is there's a chance. Oh, I'm going to laugh, because if I don't laugh, I'm going to cry, Natalie.
No,
so.
you've got to have hope, haven't you? It's a little bit tougher for you at this present.
No, you're out of order. You keep laughing at me.
It's only because it's you. Next up, we'll carry on talking about Manchester United, and Stretford Paddock presenter Jay Motti will be joining us to give us the fans' perspective as well. I know Leanne's given us a sample of it, but maybe more of a fan's perspective as well, and what it would take to reinvigorate the fan base. Good evening. This is Kick-Off on talkSPORT. You're in the company of the former Arsenal Juventus striker Lianne Sanderson and me, Natalie Sawyer. We're with you until 10. We're going to be continuing to talk about Manchester United, but we should read out some more of our texts and messages that we have received with regards to recruitment, the best signings that teams have made, because often we're critical about signings, but there's been so many that have been flagged up to us, Lianne. One of those, Chris from Leicester, who rightly points out, surely the best signing must be Jamie Vardy. £1 million, 2 promotions, a league title, an FA Cup, golden boot and 200 goals. That doesn't sound too bad.
No, that's a brilliant show. And that's why I'm loving this topic, because I feel like a lot of people are giving me food for thought. Do you know what I mean? Like, because there's not players you forget about, but you forget how much they cost.
Yeah.
I'm loving this other one as well. It says, great show, girls. Top transfer got to be Andy Robertson, Hull to Liverpool. I mean, that's a great show. And I know he's spoken today, hasn't he? About potentially not knowing where his future lies.
Well, he said he wants to stay, but he wants to be playing at the same time. I think his contract runs out this summer, is that right?
Yeah.
But yeah, very good shout. And I think it was only about, forgive me if I got this one wrong, but it might have been about 7 million or so. And that was one of those that Celtic couldn't afford. 8 million, I'm told. And Celtic couldn't afford it. And I bet that, obviously a lot of Celtic fans weren't happy, and I'm sure have since not been happy about the fact that they couldn't afford him, because what a signing he turned out to be for Liverpool. Do keep them coming into us. Lots and lots for us to get through, and we'll continue to do so. But on the subject of Manchester United then, let's continue that discussion on what has gone wrong for them and how things can be put right. Michael Carrick now in charge, bringing in the expertise of Steve Holland as one of his assistants, someone who knows what it's like to deal with a dressing room full of egos and talent, which is a great thought process, I think, from Michael Carrick to bring in someone of that experience. But what will it take for the club to get back to the glory days? Let's speak to the Stretford Paddock presenter and Manchester United fan who joins us this evening. It's Jay Motti. How are you, Jay?
How you doing? You okay?
Hi, Jay. We're good. We're good.
You okay?
What I'm going to say is I feel like this is a little bit of a session that we're going to have to go through, fan to fan.
Man United therapy session.
Maybe.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it feels
Long
like
overdue.
Well, I'll go straight in there. I mean, thanks, Jay, for joining us first and foremost. Why are we so reactive, right? So Ruben Amorim gets sacked after the Leeds game. Real Madrid sacked their manager 2 days ago. By the next day, Arbeloa is in charge interim. Why is it Manchester United sack Ruben Amorim with absolutely zero plan in place?
I think, to be honest with you, it all happened so quick. I mean, I'm not making excuses. You're right. Manchester United are reactive, and I think the lack of organisation at the club has been a sort of a bugbear for many, many years now. But I think when it came to Ruben Amorim, it was almost a bit of a shocker, because, yes, the results hadn't been great, but going into that Leeds game, I thought, his job was secure. Even after the Leeds game, I remember driving back from Ellen Road, and I thought the game wasn't great, but a point at Ellen Road when we were losing, I thought it's okay. We've got players coming back from the AFCON. It's not the end of the world. And then it came up on talkSPORT. It came up that Ruben Amorim an explosive press conference, and I listened to that press conference. You just thought he's done. Like, he's not, like, you can't keep him. I thought you can't keep him in a job because you can't let him do another press conference because you don't know what he's going to say. It's just like, he's obviously fuming, unhappy with the structure, unhappy with Jason Wilcox or Omar Brada or Jim Ratcliffe, whoever it is. So it's untenable. So then the club has to act quickly. And I think that's why Darren Fletcher came in for a couple of games, because obviously he's already there as the manager at the academy and someone who knows the club and is literally employed by United. And then they've gone with Michael Carrick. But on the whole, sort of post-Alex Ferguson, we've just gone from one manager to another. We don't seem to have a proper plan in place or a succession plan if things don't work out. And I think that's what's cost us over the years, because one manager comes in with his ideas, and then it seems when it doesn't work out, another manager comes in with completely different ideas, and we have to sort of scrap everything and start all over again with new signings. And you can see from the results and the fact that we've never got really close to a title challenge, if we're being honest, since Fergie retired, that it's just not worked.
But the thing is, Jay, right? We can't keep sacking the managers over and over again. I've had this debate many, many times on our show. Like, the common denominator is the recruitment, and the players are nowhere near good enough. Like, there was all this, he's playing a back three, the tactics are terrible. I'm like, we go for players that nobody else seems to want. And really, all the signings over the last 10 years, apart from Bruno, have been nowhere near good enough. Like, and I think there comes a time where, as fans, I don't know how you feel about this, but I'd love Jason Wilcox to speak. I'd love Omar Barada to speak. So Jim Ratcliffe spoke last year, but, like, do we not come to a point where we as fans deserve that?
100%. We were talking about this today on the podcast. I mean, Jason Wilcox was doing a bit of a victory lap when we won 3 games in October. He was giving interviews and saying how great everything was and how the plan was working. And then you've not heard from him since, when things have gone a bit, everything's gone out the window and we've had to sack another manager. So I think it'd be good to hear what he's got to say, because obviously he's the man behind some of these decisions. Omar Barada, I think he spoke ahead. They did an interview, didn't they? The timing was terrible, because I think it was last season before the Liverpool game. I think it was Omar Barada gave an interview sort of back in Ten Hag. We lost that game 3-0 and the interview came out after it and it just looked ridiculous. And then obviously Eric Ten Hag loses his job. So I would like to hear from these people and find out what the plan is, what they're trying to do at this football club. And going back to your earlier point on transfers, the problem with United and transfers is it doesn't feel like we buy players based on whether we need them for that position. At times, it seems like we've just gone out and gone, okay, who's sort of the best available player we can get, or who's a player that could do a job in the Premier League or whatever. The good example of it is Jadon Sancho. Jadon Sancho's tearing it up at Dortmund, 36 goal involvements, whatever, in 39 games. We bring him in, and you probably saw the interview of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He says, when we've signed him for 72 million quid, we find out when he gets to United that he prefers to play in a position that we don't need him for, on the left-hand side of a front three. You look at someone like Paul Pogba. Did we ever get the best out of him? Harry Maguire is a good player, but we've massively overpaid for him. It's even when we get good players, it feels like there isn't a plan on what to do with him. So I just think that the transfer policy at United has been shambolic. I'm hoping, and it's hope rather than expectation, that Ineos are going to fix that, because some of the more recent signings I think have been better, but there's a long way to go. I mean, I like Brian Mbeumo, I like Cunha, I think Sesko will get there in the end, but I'm not going to say, look, this has been a success under Ineos in terms of signings, because it's still early doors, and a lot of the decisions that Ineos have made have been poor ones, because, they brought in Dan Ashworth with all this fanfare. We were waiting for him for ages. We paid compensation to Newcastle. He comes in, they sack him within 3 months. They give Eric Ten Hag a new contract after interviewing people behind his back. They sack him 3 months after he's got a new contract. They bring in Ruben Amorim. He says, I like to play 3 at the back. They tell him, you can't do that anymore. And then they sack him when he won't change. I mean, where's the plan there? There isn't one.
So, Jane, then, you talked about hope. What is the hope for fans right now?
I mean, the bar's pretty low. For me, I'll start with winning on Saturday. That's my hope. If we get a derby win, I'll say that one. But I think ultimately, Michael Carrick's coming. He's obviously been given a job to do, and the ambition for this season, and I think it's doable. I know United have been poor, but look at where the league is and the teams around us, is to try and get in the Champions League. I mean, 5th spot might get you Champions League football, and we're 3 points off that, I think, maybe a little bit less. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility Manchester United can get into the top 5, and nor should it be. And I think you've got to at least aim for that. Otherwise, what are you doing?
What are you? 32 points, 5th place, 33, and then Liverpool and then Liverpool are on 35. So it's not much in it. And look, Michael, as we know, in his previous caretaker stint, was unbeaten in his 3 games. So let's see if he can get things right for Manchester United for the rest of this season. Jay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jay,
for being with us this evening. Don't forget, the Manchester Derby is live on talkSPORT this Saturday lunchtime. It kicks off at 12:30. That's Michael Carrick's first game in interim charge of the club. On the way next, we'll talk about Spurs. You're tuning into Kickoff on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over at gambleaware.org. This is Kick-Off on talkSPORT with the former England striker Lianne Sanderson and me, Natalie Sawyer. We're with you until 10 this evening, and we're going to talk about the state of play of Tottenham in just a moment, but we have been also asking for your texts and messages on recruitment and the best signings of your club. Some of you are going quite far back, some of you more current, but just to bring you through what we've received. Ray the Gooner, for example, has mentioned a few names that clearly are right. Patrick Vieira, he says 3.5 million. Henry, 10.5 million. Just a couple of great transfers he mentions there. And also Philip from Watford has brought up Kevin Phillips, moving from Baldock Town to Watford as a signing for nothing, he says. And we all know what career Kevin Phillips went on to have as well, prolific as he was. So, yeah. Nice messages that we've received there. And you've got one there on the subject of Tottenham.
Yeah, for Spurs, it's Alex Human. Sounds crazy, but hear me out. I think Spurs have actually recruited quite well with a few players over the last years, growing a young foundation of solid players with lots of room for improvement. I mean, I won't list all the players that he's named, but I'll list a couple. Archie Gray, Bergvall, Tell, Van der Ven. And it's true. I said this to you, didn't I, before when we were talking? Like, it's weird because I feel like Spurs have recruited relatively well, but it's like encumbersome of the manager, like when Ange Postecoglou was there. Do you know what I mean? It just hasn't worked. And then under Thomas Frank, like, not making excuses, but there's been so many injuries, hasn't there?
There has.
Kulusevski, Bentancur's now injured. Like, and they still, I mean, Solanke's back now, but like Richarlison has been leading the line and he ain't getting you double digits. He works hard, but he's not. So we'll have to hear what the Spurs fans have to say.
Yes, indeed. Keep your messages coming into us, 81089 03717 223344. That's the WhatsApp number where you can message us too. We would love to hear from you and maybe highlight some of the more contemporary ones as well. That would be nice to know, those ones that we're just forgetting at this present moment in time. But let's discuss the second club in crisis then, which is Tottenham. Despite winning the Europa League last season to qualify for the Champions League, the mood around the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium seemingly is one of frustration. And in some cases, resignation. When we talk of Maya, who is on our team, our production team, she's a Tottenham fan and she's just a bit like you, is obviously gutted with what's happening with Manchester United. She is with Tottenham and has got to the point where she's like, I'm not even interested in watching the game, going to the game, quite happy to do other things because it's got to that point of frustration. And I understand that.
You are, but you still can't help yourself.
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
Course.
You try to think, you don't
it's not
care,
going to annoy
but
me.
You do.
Yeah, of course. Long-serving chairman Daniel Levy, of course, stepped down from his role in September of last year, which fans thought might have heralded a new dawn for the club. But at the moment, the mood hasn't lifted in any way. And Thomas Frank has not made an easy start to life as the Spurs boss, and the club are out of both domestic cup competitions. They are still in Europe with the Champions League, but they are struggling somewhat in the Premier League too. Let's speak to George Sessions, who is the PA sport reporter that covers Spurs, who joins us this evening. How are you, George?
I'm good, thank you, as well as a Tottenham fan can be at the minute, I guess.
Oh, gosh. I think I might be the only happy fan, but that's because it's not involving my club. I know you're very close to the fans in this situation at Tottenham. So tell us, what is the biggest frustration for them right now?
Yeah, I mean, there is a long list, to be fair. And look, Natalie, I know this must be hard for you as well as it is for me, because Thomas Frank's obviously come from your beloved Brentford.
And I'm so biased that I hate any negative talk about him. But go on.
No, look, this isn't completely his fault. This has been a long running theme, I guess. And Daniel Levy did some brilliant things at the club. Obviously, built this incredible stadium, and the training ground is immaculate as well. But I think it's fair to say that the eye was taken off the ball when it comes to the actual first team, probably towards the end of Pochettino's time, Mauricio Pochettino's time. And I think, Lianne's right when she says actually some of the players Tottenham signed in recent years. And I think the squad is getting better, and the investment has been there. But it's almost kind of, a little bit too late in a sense. I think Spurs are going to be well placed, going forward, with some of these young players, Archie Gray, Lucas Bergvall. I like Xavi Simons. I think, in a year's time, he's going to be a real Tottenham fans' favourite. But unfortunately, kind of in between the period of moving into the stadium and then to now, the last 6 years, it's been kind of, one strategy to another, Conte's football to Ange's football, now it's Frank's football. You completely go on one end of the spectrum to the other. And the Europa League win was fantastic, and Spurs enjoyed that, albeit it took 17 years to win, another trophy. But they're now back to kind of Groundhog Day. It's January time. They've got an injury crisis. They're mid-table. They're not winning enough games. They're not playing entertaining football. And that's kind of why you're going to have a fan protest before the West Ham game. And you've got the Supporters Trust putting out strong statements at the minute, as they are. There's a lot of discontent. And look, it isn't just Thomas Frank's fault, but he's in control and responsible for the last 6 months. And, I think everyone would admit, if you're a Tottenham fan, that it's just not been good enough the last 6 months.
George, you talk about there, the fans protesting, and we saw after the Bournemouth game, there was Van der Ven, Pedro Porro were going into the crowd and kind of having those. I'm okay with that. We saw Mark Gahey do it after the Macclesfield game as well. But it seems like similar to when Ange Postecoglou was there, the unrest was coming. Like, where is the frustration then? Because you're saying the fans are going to protest, they have every right to because they're paying all their money. But surely it can't just be against Thomas Frank, because there's obviously bigger problems at this football club.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny you mentioned Bournemouth, because Ange also clashed with the fans at Bournemouth last season. So there's something about the Vitality Stadium that doesn't agree with Tottenham and their managers and their players. Look, I think the frustration, it isn't just aimed at Thomas Frank. He's being booed at the minute, and he's kind of almost a lightning rod in a sense because Daniel Levy's not there. But I think the main frustration is with the board and the owners. And look, Daniel Levy stepped down in September, and it's the Lewis family that that have always been there, but feel like they have a lot more bigger say, and they're really running things, and they've put their faith in Vinay. But when Daniel Levy stepped down, the whole kind of idea was, from sources close to the family, it's more wins and more often. And unfortunately, Tottenham won 5 of the last 20 games, and they've started January, and I think where it's kind of spilled over is, you're in a bad run of form. You're not scoring a lot of goals. You're not creating a lot of chances. And in the first week of January, you weaken your squad by selling Brennan Johnson. Now, that looks not the worst thing in the world now that money has been spent on Conor Gallagher. And it's fair to say that, a lot of the discontent was probably, it kind of reached a higher sort of boiling point after the Aston Villa exit, because obviously the FA Cup was realistically the last chance for Tottenham to sort of win a trophy this season. The club have acted well since. They've clarified the Fabio Paratici situation. They've obviously signed Conor Gallagher. Today, Johnny Heitinger's arrived as a first-team coach to support Thomas Frank. So I think the club are behind Thomas Frank, and the actions of the last few days would have definitely appeased some fans. But this is not just a Thomas Frank problem or an Ange Postecoglou problem. This is a number of years where, going back to kind of 2017, 2018, Tottenham was so close to kind of greatness, and Mauricio Pochettino was creating magic, literally, and the squad wasn't backed, and it just kind of crumbled from there, and they've been trying to get back up to the sort of where they were basically since then.
So is there a clear plan, do you think, for Tottenham going forward?
I think, to give Vinay Venkatesham, some credit, he came in. I think he was actually announced in April, but sort of took over in the summer, and straight away him and Daniel Levy were in front of the camera doing an interview, and look, everyone knows Daniel Levy. One of the biggest criticisms of him was that he didn't, do enough interviews, didn't speak enough to the fans, and it was hard for the fans to know what the plan was. And Vinay came in and did that straight away. And when Daniel Levy left in September, again, he fronted up and explained the decision. When Paratici was appointed in October, he explained the decision. But I think the frustration in recent months has been when things have been going really badly, and you get an XG of 0.05 in a home game against Chelsea, and the team are losing, and no one really knows the kind of ambition. Vinay hasn't came out and sort of laid out the plan. And at Arsenal, and that's the easy comparison, because Vinay's come from Arsenal, there was the whole five-year plan, wasn't there, to turn them from a team that were on the outside to being genuine title contenders. And I think that's probably the next stage for Vinay, to kind of win over the fan base, to really explain what the plan is, because I think actually the club view this as a bit of a transitional season, and Thomas Frank has said this, except 6 months ago after the Europa League win, everyone talks about being a platform to win more trophies. So there's a disconnect really with what the fans are expecting. And I think, in fairness, what some of the players are expecting and what the club kind of view as the short-term goal. I think long-term they feel like they're putting things in place, and there's been a number of sort of appointments behind the scenes. Rafi Morrison was announced today from the City Football Group. I think behind the scenes, Vinay is putting key figures in place. Not all of them have started yet, but I think fans just want to know kind of what is the real short-term and long-term plan, because it was announced a few months ago that Tottenham were going to be competing in all competitions and trying to build on the Europa League win. And we're in January, they're at both domestic cups and they're 14th in the Premier League. It's certainly not gone how the fans and how the ownership and how Vinay kind of certainly anticipated.
Can I just say, though, I like Vinay. I worked with him a lot when he was at Arsenal, and he's a top guy, and he does front up. And one thing I will say, George, is that any Spurs fans that are watching the men's team, go and watch the women's team, because they're currently in third in the WSL, flying, and the next game's at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So if any Spurs fans want to go and see their team win, head over and watch the Spurs women, because they're doing bits this year, I swear.
Yeah. See a team that's winning.
Vinay's got behind them massively. I know that. I spoke to Martin Ho recently, and definitely England, and they were saying how Vinay, as soon as he came in, straight into the women's team, meeting the players, kind of explaining what his vision was. And I think from what I heard, that certainly wasn't the case previously. So you're right, to point out, that Spurs have signed some brilliant players already this January in the women's side. So there's certainly a lot of positivity there. And I think long term, I think Vinay Venkateshwaran will do really good work at Tottenham. And it feels like, as I say, he's putting certain figures in place. But right now they're going through a really, really tricky period. And I think fans have just lost a lot of belief in Thomas Frank, because, as much as the results over the last 12 months haven't been good enough, when Spurs would lose under Ange Postecoglou, it would be entertaining. You'd lose 4-3 to Chelsea, 6-3 to Liverpool. No fan wants to lose, but as long as your team's had a go, you can kind of accept that. And there's just been a lot of games where there's been a real lack of attacking intent, and not the Tottenham way. I do a podcast, called the Tottenham Way every week, and it's called the Tottenham Way for a reason. Cliche or not, Tottenham have always been entertainers. They've always had flair players, and I don't think we've seen enough of that from Thomas Frank's Tottenham so far, and that needs to improve if he is going to get the time to make a real fist of this.
George, really appreciate you joining us this evening. Thank you. That was George Sessions, the PA Sports Spurs reporter. We're going to continue to talk about Tottenham and bring you the fan side of things on the current frustrations, as Spurs fan and podcaster Chris Cowlin will be with us on Kickoff on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over, gambleaware.org. This is Kick-Off on talkSPORT. Lianne Sanderson, the former Lioness, alongside me, Natalie Sawyer. We are talking about Tottenham and where they are at right now. We've had a few messages coming in as well. But maybe, Lianne, give us your perspective on what you're seeing as an outsider and what's going on at Tottenham.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird one, Natalie, because I look at their recruitment and one of the people to text in as well, and I think it's been decent, but I just think my father-in-law is a massive Tottenham fan, right? He's been loving the club since he was like 7 years old, absolutely loves Tottenham. And even he's at the end of his tether with their style of play. Do you know what I mean? He's tuning in every single game, every single week, in every competition. And he's like, what is going on with my football club? Do you know what I mean? So, you know, right now they're sitting in 14th in the Premier League, nowhere near good enough. It can't just be Thomas Frank. Do you know what I mean? I keep saying it's similar to, this is why there's similarities between Manchester United and Spurs based upon the poor decisions that have been made. Because you know his style of play at Brentford, right? So why would they bring him in if they didn't feel like he was playing a style of play? And there's a couple of times where I've seen, there's been a few videos, I know we're getting Chris on in a minute, like that circulated about like players disrespected Thomas Frank. You know, there was a couple of times where they're just completely blanking him and walking past him and like things like, and I'm thinking to myself, has he lost the dressing room? Do you know what I mean? When I see that, like, because I'm not blanking my manager. Like, you wouldn't get away with it, and you wouldn't be blanking Mourinho, you wouldn't be blanking Conte, because they'd be chasing after you, wouldn't they? So, I don't know. I just think at times Thomas Frank does look out of his depth. As much as it pains me to say it, because I like him, but I just think, like, he doesn't look like he's a Spurs manager, does he? But the players have to also take a look at themselves, because constantly managers, conveyor belt, sacked. What about the players? At what point are the players going to come out and say, do you know what? We've not been good enough. I would love some of the players to come out and speak to the fans. You know, like old school when they used to do like those consortium type of things.
Oh, yeah.
Stadiums.
The forum things.
Yeah, the forum things. And the fans used to be able to go. And it used to be very good. It wasn't like everyone being nasty.
No, but honest. It was very honest.
Asking the manager and the ownership questions. And they don't do that anymore.
Well, look, let's have a Spurs fan perspective. Joining us from the Spurs Chat podcast is Chris Cowlin. Chris, thank you for being with us this evening. I'll get straight to it if you don't mind. What is your view of what's going on at your club right now?
Natalie, Lianne, good afternoon to you or good evening to you. I completely agree with everything Lianne just said there, absolutely, but it is a collective problem. The board, we have gone round in circles. We have made a number of really, really poor decisions over a number of years. When you go back to 2019 of Mauricio Pochettino being sacked to now Thomas Frank, we've gone through 6 permanent managers in the last 6 and a bit years, including 3 interim managers, I might add as well. But the manager needs to be more accountable for some of these performances, because it has been really, really boring this season. You know, in some games, I say most games, Thomas Frank and the players have been booed. We've had 1 shot on goal. XG has been really, really poor. The players need to look at themselves as well. I completely agree with what Lianne said there about the players taking accountability. And, you know, some of these players haven't given everything in some of these games. And then, of course, you've got to look at the injury record and the medical department as well, because it hasn't just been this season. You know, the couple of seasons under Ange Postecoglou, a lot of fans blamed Ange for a lot of our injuries in the last couple of years. It clearly isn't his fault. And it goes, you know, back to, you know, before that as well. So there is a number of problems right now.
Yeah, I mean, lovely to see you as always, Chris. And I think we're both in the same boat when it comes to our football clubs. I mean, you go to all the games, home and away. I've seen you shared like a number of videos as well. And I was saying previously to Natalie about the fact that the players are kind of like blanking Thomas Frank, you know, walking past. I know one of the videos you shared. Like, what do you make of all that? Does it look like he's lost the dressing room? Like, there was unrest under Ange Postecoglou. How can there still be unrest constantly?
I think the video that you're definitely referring to is the Chelsea one with Van der Ven and Spence walking off the pitch. We'd had 1 shot on goal, and that was in the first half, and it was a very poor second half. And the players just wanted to get off the pitch, and Thomas Frank doing the Thomas Frank thing that he does, whether, you know, at Brentford, whether they won, lost or drew, he would always go round and applaud the fans. And he expects every single Spurs player to do this home and away games. And I think that some of the players have just had enough of wanting to, or being made to go and applaud the fans when we've just lost the game and played really poorly, and them to involved in the mix-up for that goal as well. So I think that one, you know, if I was a player, I'd probably just want to get off the pitch as well, rather than go over the fans. And, you know, with the mood and the way that the Spurs fans feel in some of these games, particularly at the end of games, you know, the fans are booing. They're not very happy. They're not happy with the style of play. You only had to look at the Brentford away game a couple of weeks ago. Thomas Frank boldly walked over to the away end, and the closer he got to the away end, the louder the boos got. And I think he was surprised with that. And then, of course, there were boos recently as well. The home record at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium during 2025, absolutely abysmal. That needs to improve as well. And when you say about league position, we're sitting in 14th. We are 6 points away from 5th, which could be a Champions League spot. And at the moment, we're 6 points above 17th, where we finished under Ange Postecoglou last season. So where do we go in this second part of the season? But I cannot stress enough, the board need to learn from their mistakes, because we have gone round in circles. And the ironic thing is, we waited all this time for a trophy. And then, of course, a manager delivers one, and then we sack him. So you couldn't write this stuff, could you?
Look, I know you're out of both domestic cup competitions, but you're sitting 11th in the Champions League phase as things stand. If you were to get through that and maybe go a bit deeper in the competition, is that enough for you this season? Bear in mind how awful it has been so far.
I think to save this season, Natalie, we've got to definitely get a European spot. Spurs have to be playing European football with the signings of like Conor Gallagher. And if you want to be attracting the top players in Europe, you have to be playing European competition. So if Thomas Frank wants to save this season somehow and make it a positive finish to this season, we have to finish in a European spot. But with the Champions League, let's see what happens. I think it's imperative that Spurs go all out and sign as many quality additions in this squad. And when I mean quality, I mean players to literally walk straight into this team and make a real difference.
I mean, Chris, we talk about Spurs, but big game this weekend against West Ham at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. You mentioned it before, like how abysmal the record at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium has been. But like, if West Ham were to win this game, like, I feel like this could be, the end of Thomas Frank, genuinely.
Well, it's interesting because they've just appointed a new coach today for Thomas Frank. So the club clearly want this to work. I can't stress that enough. The club really want it to work. I want it to work. I know there's a lot of people that, I go with and, you bump into at the stadium. A lot of people have given up on Thomas Frank right now. And it'll be very interesting to see if he can turn this around. But the home atmosphere, the home record, everything about going to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium right now, I just feel like everyone feels nervous, but this is an absolute must-win game. He has to win this game. The players have to deliver. West Ham, I'm not being funny, they've been awful this season. They've just been battered away at Wolves as well. If this is a game you've got to win, we can't have anything but a really good win and a good performance.
Well, Chris, we wish you the best of luck for that then. Thank you very much for joining us this Thursday evening. That was Chris Callan, the Spurs Chat podcast. Don't forget that London derby then between Tottenham and West Ham. It's a 3:00 kickoff, so that'll be part of our Game Day live coverage as we take you around the grounds for all the key incidents, goals, etc. that happen in those 3:00 kickoffs. Now, in the next hour, we'll hopefully get your reaction to the state of play of Manchester United and Tottenham, as well as discuss Gareth Southgate's latest comments on the authority of a manager. He says it's gradually being eroded. Is he right? We'll discuss it next. You're listening to Kickoff on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over. BeGambleAware.org.
How did it all come crashing down for Wales so suddenly? In his first tenure in charge, Warren Gatland built a dynasty, taking young guns and turning them into giants, not just for Wales, but for the Lions as well. 4 Six Nations titles, 3 of them Grand Slams, and in 2019, a world #1 ranking. But then, a record drop-off, golden generation all but gone, a first wooden spoon for 21 years, and 14 losses on the bounce. Why? Perhaps the main reason was poor spending. During Gatland's first tenure, the WRU committed its funds to world-leading training facilities for the national side, but underinvested in the club scene. Despite Ireland raking in similar overall revenues, its union would be committing up to £30 million a year more than Wales to their provincial clubs. In 2023, a report found the WRU had flitted away an £84 million TV deal on the purchase of a Cardiff hotel and a zip wire above the Principality. At the same time, the regional budgets and salary caps were being slashed, and they're still being cut. Add this to a distinct lack of player pathways when compared to the private school-fueled setups in Ireland, Scotland and England, the continuous rise of football's popularity and generational talents going elsewhere. It all meant when Abby Tierney became CEO, having never worked in sport before, she had a mountain to climb. And yet the beauty of sport, of course, is it isn't played in the boardroom, and sometimes it takes surprisingly little for the narrative to shift almost overnight. When Gatland left for the second time, interim coach Matt Sherratt only had 3 training sessions before Wales' next game, but the team looked unrecognisable, and all he did was pick players in the right positions and provide a bit of attacking structure. Suddenly, Wales were back pushing Ireland to the wire. As Gatland's first tenure taught us, for Wales' success to be sustainable, once the books are balanced, the regions need more money, salary caps need boosting, player pathways need investment. But it doesn't have to mean Wales lose every game in the meantime.
Good evening, this is Kickoff on talkSPORT. Coming up in this final hour of the show, we're going to discuss the evolution of the manager role and the growth of the head coach. In this modern structure, is it a recipe for success at the elite level of the game? You can give us your thoughts on that. 03717 223344. Certainly Sir Gareth Southgate has some interesting thoughts on it. We'll also look ahead to a huge weekend in the Premier League, including the Manchester Derby, which I know Lianne is looking forward to, and a huge clash between Spurs and West Ham. Who needs the win more in that one? 03717 223344. That's the number you can call us up on. So if you want to have a chat with us, you can also WhatsApp us on that number. You can text us to 81089 as well. And join us on Kickoff on talkSPORT. Right, lots to get through in this final hour of the show. We've been talking in the last half hour or so of the situation of Tottenham, with Thomas Frank really not hitting the ground running at all as the new Spurs head coach. We also spoke about Manchester United before that, but Michael, the Spurs fan, has rung us this evening to discuss the situation of his club. Michael, good evening, how are you?
Good evening, Natalie. I'm very well, thank you. Good to speak to you.
Lovely to have you with us.
Great. Last thing I want to do is upset you because I know you love Thomas Frank.
I'm ready for it, Michael. I'm ready.
Well, yeah, I'm sure. And I was really excited when he was appointed because I thought it was going to be really good for him to manage my club. However, it's got to be said, whilst everything that you both said tonight is right, it's not just him. There's the players have got to stand up, the board, whether under Daniel Levy or not. There's a lot of things that needed to change, and I think it's since Poch wasn't backed when he should have been, and he was on the cusp of something really special. If we keep Thomas Frank for much longer, I appreciate we're only 6 points away from top 5, but we are very close to the bottom 3 as well. And we will, if we keep him, be flirting with relegation. we don't know how to play attacking football, and that I appreciate players have to stand up, but that has got to be down to some coaching as well. And I'm never one to sack the manager. I even wanted to keep Ange because at least he won us a trophy, whilst I appreciate the dangers that there were with him. But Thomas Frank, I don't see a plan. I don't see what he's trying to achieve. I don't see his formation. I don't see an identity with the football. I was at the Aston Villa game, the league game, not the cup one, but the league game, where we went 1-0 up, and for the first 10 minutes we looked quite good. Then we just capitulated. Whatever the reasons for that were, I don't know. But he was going to put a substitute on, and it took him 8 minutes. Now, I appreciate there were breaks in play and other stuff like that, but they kept going over this diagram board, this little whiteboard that he's got. And it seemed to me like he didn't know what he wanted to do and what he wanted this player to do, and they didn't have a clue at all. Surely, after coaching during the week, it's just a couple of words like do this, do that, or this is the situation, and get him on. I don't think the man knows what he's doing.
I agree. Good evening, Michael. I just want to come in there quickly. I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I remember the Newcastle game where Romero scored those 2 goals, and I remember the substitutions. It was crying out for him to make a midfield substitution. I know it's easy from this side of the line, but these managers get paid the big money to make in-game decisions. And I just think the biggest issue with me and Thomas Frank is what I see is that he's too, reactive. He doesn't make substitutions. And I know Brentford are a massive football club, but, Tottenham, there's more. I know there are levels. Be under the microscope a little bit more, Michael, isn't it? So on one hand, you're saying he's out of his depth, which I do see. But when he was appointed, did you feel optimistic then? Like, who else did you want to take over at that moment in time?
I did. The fact, I know that they sacked Ange, it's typical Tottenham. They win a trophy for the first time in 17 years and then sack the manager. There you go. But, yes, I was excited because I know he's done great stuff with Brentford on a very limited basis with the squad. And I thought, well, if he can do that with them, surely, even though Tottenham's squad is not the best, although it's not as bad as a lot of people are making out, there are some decent players in there. It's not an Arsenal or stuff like that. We're not at that level, anywhere near it. But I thought, yes, let's kick on, and he'll bring some pragmatism to it, but also a little bit of dynamism, because Brentford had that. Well, they still got it, actually. But Brentford definitely had that, but it's not happening at Spurs. He's had 6 months. It's not working. So I think I really am not a person to say sack the manager, but he has to go.
You're not a person who's going to say sack him, but I've got to sack him.
But go. Get out is what you're saying, Michael. Listen, we appreciate you ringing in. Thank you, Michael. And as always on this show, you're always welcome to join us. So that's the Tottenham situation. What about the Manchester United side of things? Lewis is a United fan who joins us. How are you doing, Lewis?
Yeah, good evening, ladies.
Hi, Lewis. Evening. Go on then, tell us what you think of what's going on at your club.
Right, okay, we'll quickly touch on Amorim going first, because I haven't been on talkSPORT for a couple of weeks. I haven't had my say on that yet, and then we'll talk about Carrick, the game, and the rest of the season. So, yeah, Amorim for me had to go. He was been a complete disaster, his whole 14 months at the club there. Started off with a drab 1-1 draw with a relegation team in Ipswich. That was his first game. And it ended with 2 1-1 drab draws with Wolves and what was the other game?
West Ham.
There was West Ham. There's too many bad results under Amorim, and then a shocking loss in the Europa League final. It was just never going to work. And the rest of the season, if he stayed, in my opinion, it would just been the same mixed bag of moments, but lots of draws and defeats and just bad results. I don't think we would have finished in the top 8, with him. So for me, he had to go. Whether he went because of a fallout with the board or on results or a bit of both, I don't know. But whatever, for me, he's gone. I'm glad he's gone. Okay, so we've got an ex-player in Carrick. Okay, well, as long as we don't give him the main job, like we did with Ollie, I think we made that mistake before. Carrick, okay, he'll take us through the end of the season. This season, though, has been another disaster. I mean, you think last year was bad enough, but this year, out of both domestic cups in the first round for us, that hasn't happened since 1981. No European football on top of that. And for me, okay, we're 7th in the league, but I think that's a false position. I think we've been so bad this season, bar the odd moment here and there. I think it's a false position. I personally think we should be several places lower down the table than when we are currently. And I reckon, looking at these games coming up at the moment, we've got Man City at home and Arsenal away. I expect us to lose both of those, maybe 1 point possibly out of the 6 on offer, and we will quickly fall down the table, because recently when we've been having all these terrible results, especially at home against Everton, West Ham, Wolves, Burnley, all the other night. I know that was away, but we should be winning these games if we want to be in the top 5. Now, the teams below us were slipping up as well, and that's why we haven't been falling down the table. But recently now, they have caught us up. And if you look, we will easily end up 12th, 13th, 14th by the end of that Arsenal away game next weekend. If we lose both or we only get 1 point out of the 2 games, then that's where I think we will be roughly for the rest of the season, around mid-table. It's just not good enough. We know the main problem at the club, it's not the management, it's the board and it's the ownership of the club. That's the real main problem there. I mean, too many bad decisions. This 2 years of Ineos so far has been nothing short of a disaster. The team's not good enough. We're probably 6, 7 top players short from being contending for league titles again. We don't deserve Champions League football, in my opinion. I think the rest of the season, we've got nothing to look forward to. We're out the FA Cup now. No European footballs. Loads of weekends off or midweeks off. It's just trying to get a Europa League spot or a Europa Conference League. We won't get Champions League spot.
Lewis, I just want to interrupt you for a second, because I like a lot of the points that you have made there, definitely. But I think a lot of it is hypothetical, because Ruben got sacked when we were in 6th place. And then you're saying he had to go. And on the other hand, you're saying, but we're going to probably finish 14th or 15th in the league. So doesn't that make the point of the fact that it doesn't really matter who's in charge at this moment in time? We are just in a really bad spot based upon the ownership and based upon the decisions. It doesn't matter who's managing.
No, I agree. But he should have done better. I know you can, if you're going to be just going by the league position, then yeah, you think, oh well, he's doing okay, 6th, 7th. But for me, as I said, Lianne, it's a 4th position. If you look at the results this season, how are we?
I agree with that, but we are though.
We've been top 4 2 weeks ago.
I agree with you.
Hemorrhaging points most weeks, and how are we still hanging around 5th, 6th, 7th? We should be 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and we will be, Lianne. You're only going to get away with these terrible results for so long. Eventually, we're going to slide down the table and end up being where we should be, like where Spurs are. You know, it's just another disaster season on top of last season. The ownership is the main problem, as I said, but a better manager, that's where we should be going in the summer. There's going to be a bag load of top quality, world-class managers up for grabs next summer, especially after the World Cup. We need one of those. And the problem I've got is, the worry I've got is, I think the board want a yes man in charge and pay him as little as possible. And a big top name manager like an Ancelotti, like a Thomas Tuchel, etc., they're going to want big salaries and to be able to, demand big signings, and the money's not there. We're losing so much money. If you look at 40 games this season, that's all it's going to be. That's the lowest for decades. 40-game season.
We need better players as well, Lewis. We need better players.
As well, Lianne, it's 10 games less at home this season. 10 less home games. That's a lot of match day revenue the club are missing out on top of all the European money they've been missing out on because we haven't qualified for Europe. We're hemorrhaging money. Where's the money going to come from? We probably need £500 million to throw at this squad to improve it. Otherwise, whoever comes in, if they haven't got any money to spend, we're going to struggle and struggle and struggle. And Man United now, for me, it's just, we're doomed. I just can't see. We needed a reset of a new ownership, and we blew that. I think we're doomed. It's going to be a disaster, I think, not just this rest of the season, but for many more seasons to come.
Well, we can hear your frustration and disappointment. Yeah. Absolutely, Lewis, and a really good call. Thank you very much for that. We'll take a break. When we return, I'll get you to react to it in a bit more detail if you don't mind. But we'll also discuss what Sir Gareth Southgate has had to say about the so-called erosion of the authority of the football manager and what does it mean for the future of the sport. This is Kick-Off on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over, gambleaware.org. Good evening, this is Kick-Off, and you're in the company of the former Lioness striker Lianne Sanderson and me, Natalie Sawyer. With you until 10 tonight. We're going to talk about what Sir Gareth Southgate has had to say about the evolution of a football manager. But before we do that, just want to read out a couple of messages and also get your take on what Lewis had to say on your club, Manchester United. First of all, Amir, on the subject of Tottenham, he says, after 45 years as a Spurs fan and season ticket holder, Thomas Frank has come in as manager of possibly the worst Spurs squad in 20 years and certainly the last 10. No wonder he's struggling to make decisions. The players don't offer too much and he's changing things around game to game to see how everyone fits in. Give the guy at least the season and a couple of windows to see if he can get it right. And he also says, cut out the booing, please. It's very, very annoying and also disrespectful. Thank you, Amir, for those points. What I will say, and I know it doesn't look great on paper at all because they are conceding goals, but part of my thought process with Thomas Frank was looking back at what happened last season with Spurs. They were conceding a lot of goals, and we know that under Ange Postecoglou. There was a part of me that thought, because look, he'd lost a lot of creativity with all the injuries they had up front with Maddison, and Solanke was out for a period of time, and Kulusevski. It felt like maybe he's trying to fix the defence first. I know that hasn't worked because the defence is still conceding, but it feels like he has to have a bit of time to get things right. I know I'm biased. That's the problem. I find it
I
very
don't think
difficult.
you are being biased to a certain degree, because I think now the first thought is the manager has to go, right? Because of the results. But actually, like, Amir's got a great shout there. You know, do I think it's been the worst Spurs team in that many years? I don't think so. I look at their squad and I think there's actually a couple of players I'll take at Man United. Do you know what I mean? Like, but I just think, but I like the fact that these season ticket holders are messaging us in because they go to every single game. When you go and watch the games every single week live, you have a different perspective. You might not always agree, but you do. It's different to watching it on the television. So fair play to Amir because he's got a balanced, I think, opinion.
Yes.
Because if you are booing, that's not helping anybody. Like, as much as Man United pain me and hurt me, I would never boo a Manchester United player or anyone. I wish Michael Carrick, Steve Holland, Jonathan Woodgate, the ultimate best. Genuinely, like, I would never be able to do that. The booing doesn't help anyone.
Very quickly, what Lewis had to say about his hopes for the future, which were quite bleak for Manchester United. What if Carrick does do all right?
Yeah, it's a difficult one because Ole Gunnar Solskjaer did all right at the beginning and then we kept him on. I think, you know, Michael Carrick is a former player, top player. I like him, but at the same time, I just don't think it's definition of insanity, isn't it? If we continue to make the same mistakes over and over again, like, and not change anything. So if he does well, then obviously he's going to put him. He's not gone to Manchester United to be the interim. He wants to stay.
Yeah, of course.
Do you know what I mean? And I feel for Fletcher took over for those 2 games because it wasn't Darren Fletcher's fault why Manchester United weren't doing well in those 2 games. It was like the club is so toxic, Natalie, at this moment in time that no one's thriving, are they? Let's be honest. Like,
but maybe that's why the Steve Holland appointment is a clever one, because he's an external. He's never really been a part of it. So that's why that might be
we'll have to wait and see, won't we? Because it's all hypothetical.
Absolutely.
Like, we don't know how this is going to go.
Obviously, the Steve Holland, we can link that to England and Sir Gareth Southgate, who's had some really interesting comments on LinkedIn talking about the role of a football manager and how that has changed over time. Just to pick out some of the things he said, the erosion of a manager's authority has been a gradual process over many years. It has accelerated with the widespread introduction of football, technical or sporting directors who now oversee long-term football strategy, report directly to CEOs or owners and sit structurally above the head coach. He says, personally, I have no issue with this evolution. He says strategy, culture, planning and continuity are critical to success in any organisation, and a football club is no different. When he then went on to talk about the role of a head coach, where he said sometimes people think that a head coach now, his role is simpler. He disputes that. He says that's absolutely not right, because there's a complexity of managing modern day players these days when they are effectively individual brands nowadays. There's also the financial stakes for clubs, the relentless scrutiny of both traditional and social media, and you have a significant melting pot of problems and pressure, he says. And that's why he said, actually, the role of a head coach isn't simply just a coach, even though that's how we see it, because there's a lot more they do have to deal with. Where do you see it all then? Do you agree with Gareth that maybe we're too harsh on head coaches, in the sense that we say, oh, you're just a coach these days. You don't have to worry about what Arsene Wenger used to have to do and Sir Alex Ferguson used to have to do with all the contract negotiations, etc.
But you know what's funny, Natalie? When I was a kid, I used to think a head coach or manager, I thought it was just the role that they decided they wanted to go by. Because whoever's at the realm. Yeah, because whoever's at the head, for me, is the one making the decisions. Now, it seems like now, similar to what Enzo Maresca, you know, when he spoke about before he went, it's the worst 48 hours he'd had, and it was all very cryptic. A lot of managers now are not making decisions. You know, I see now, like, and this whole other conversation itself, there's 2 buses now that go to Premier League games that I've seen. There's one for coaches and technical staff and stats person and set piece coaches, and then there's one for the players. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's become so stats-based, football anyway, that it's all based upon, I agree with what Gareth Southgate's saying, and that's why Carl was saying, alluded to it earlier, and a lot of people we work with have said they can't see Sir Gareth Southgate coming back into football because they're like, why would he? Do you know what I mean? Like, football has changed. Like, the conveyor belt of managers during my time was like Alan Pardew, Sam Allardyce, Tony Pulis. You know what I mean? They would be on a conveyor belt of when a manager got sacked, they would just go straight in there, wouldn't they? Now we're seeing managers, players retire and then go straight into management. Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, Xabi Alonso. I'm not saying I have a problem with that, but I just always think managing is an art. Now, Sir Alex Ferguson at Manchester United, he was a manager. Like Mike Phelan, Steve McLaren used to take the sessions, right? Most of the time, 9 times out of 10, would take the warm-ups. Do you honestly believe that he allowed... who do you think made the decisions in the end of who was playing and who wasn't?
Sir Alex Ferguson.
Exactly. So for me, if I'm a coach at a team or I'm a manager and I'm not allowed to make decisions, I wouldn't want to be at that football club because who comes and gets sacked? They don't sack the technical staff. Well, they go with them if you're Ruben and you get a payoff, you know, when you get sacked. But like, I just think there's this big topic of conversation now when Ruben even said in his exit press conference, if that's what we want to call it, I'm not Conte, Jose Mourinho. Well, just manage your job is to manage. No? Like, do your best to manage. If people above you are making those decisions, which it seems like people are alluding to that at places like Chelsea, you know, I do think it's quite disrespectful when they're saying Liam Rosini is a yes man, and that's why he's got the job. But I do think now there needs to be more respect given to managers and coaches that are in those positions, Natalie, because it's like they are the decision makers.
They should be the decision makers.
They should be, but it seems like football's changing and they're not the decision makers. And I would have a problem with that. And I think Enzo Maresca clearly had a problem with that because he spoke, didn't something come out about the fact that
the medical
team
had
are
to be on the bench. Yeah.
Like, I mean, the medical team are on the bench anyway, the physio and all that, like when I played, and doctors, but like, to feel like you're not having him and Cole Palmer, for example, that was a topic of conversation. They should have that conversation between them and the medical staff before a game. You know what I mean? You should have a meeting with them and then they have a conversation. What is the duty of care for this player? How many minutes can they play? It is not rocket science. But this whole, is he a manager? Is he a head coach? You're the job. You're in charge. Just do your job.
I mean, that's what it should be, isn't it? Ultimately, at the end of the day, regardless of your title, like you're saying there, that once kickoff is underway, the manager, the head coach, is the one that should have the final say. I kind of understand that there might be influences around you. That's natural, as in Maresca could turn to his bench and speak to the relevant people he needs to have an opinion from. But ultimately, it then comes down to him. He shouldn't then be dictated to by others.
But it seems like Ruben practically... People can talk about Ruben losing his job because of tactics, but it seems like he's fallen out with the board.
Yes.
Omar Barada and Jason Wilcox, seems like they had a disagreement on the Friday, and then off he went. You can't have people... You can't just have yes men at your football club, Natalie, and expect to succeed. You can't have arguments and conflict, but you can't have yes men that... You know, what kind of world are we living in if you can't have all different opinions and come together? Because surely you're at the football club for the same reasons. You want to win.
Yes.
And it's okay if you disagree with a player or however what's going on. It has to be a combination of like teamwork. But for someone to disagree with someone and then get rid of him, I think it's a disgrace, to be honest.
Well, look, there's so much more we can get through as well. We're going to be talking about a huge weekend in the Premier League coming up as well. But you are tuning in to Kick Off on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over, gambleaware.org.
There's something wrong with the culture at Spurs, and the senior players must take responsibility for their poor run of form. That's according to former Tottenham player and coach Gus Poyet.
I think life at Tottenham, as a Tottenham player, is too easy. You cannot be so good to win a European competition and finish 17th in the league.
Well, Spurs have appointed Carlos Rafael Mawson, known as Rafi, as Director of Football Operations. Now, Liam Rosenior has put Robert Sanchez's mistakes down to how he's asking his Chelsea keeper to play. Meanwhile, former Blues defender
Good evening, this is Kickoff on talkSPORT. Lianne, Sanderson and Natalie Sawyer with you right now. The first episode of a brand new talkSPORT daily podcast series is out first thing for you tomorrow morning. It's called Fiery Fridays. Adrian Durham, Alex Crook and Angelina Kelly will arrive every Friday armed with one blazing hot take each. That's 3 huge opinions every Friday. There's no sitting on the fence and absolutely no fears of things getting a little heated, because as the week winds down, we are turning the heat up for you. So in tomorrow's episode, they discuss Arsenal's quadruple hopes, whether England could have won the World Cup, and Michael Carrick, if it's time for Manchester United to move on from the Sir Alex Ferguson era. If you want to hear more, then head over to the talkSPORT Daily podcast feed first thing tomorrow morning to tune into Fiery Fridays. So let's talk a little bit more off the back of what we were talking about with the role of a manager, for example. And you touched on it with the report in the Daily Mail that found under Enzo Maresca, Chelsea's head medical expert was on the bench telling Maresca when to substitute players. And when the Italian didn't comply, he received a letter from the club reminding him of his responsibility. So says the Daily Mail. I mean, that latter part, receiving a letter. You can't just have a normal conversation.
I don't like that. That type of stuff does not work with me, Natalie.
I don't think it works with many.
It's like micromanaging. Do you know what I mean? Like, and the reality is there is a duty of care, right? Where the physios and the medical team should be telling Enzo Maresca, this player, that player. I don't want to speculate what player it is, but like, let's say Cole Palmer, he can only play 20 minutes or he can only play 60 minutes. If that player is then on the 65th minute or the 70th, then what? Of course, the medical team are going to say he can't play any longer. So in hindsight, that's actually not good for the well-being of the player. But for him to receive a letter, come on now.
I find that quite disrespectful. Bless you.
Excuse me.
I would be fuming.
Yeah.
Because that is, and I know why they've done it. It's very formal. I get why they've done that. But come on. If you want to be respect and have respect all around, you just have a normal conversation about it.
Yeah.
Now, as we know, Maresca wouldn't be happy with it. But at least you're having a face-to-face, brutal, maybe, conversation.
Well, surely the medical team after that game would have just had a chat with him. They've got offices, they've got, the separate room. They could just say, this is what we need to do. Like, we're all adults here. Like, sending a formal letter just seems a bit aggressive.
Well, it is aggressive, isn't it? Especially then what that's telling you is the head of their medical, this is all reportedly, of course, the head of the medical department has then gone to whoever to say, he's not listening to me. And then they've had to go through the process of writing a letter, which effectively is undermining the manager.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't like that.
No, not at all.
I
don't know many managers that would, to be fair.
Not really. Although, look, I get that you do nowadays have to listen to your medical department more than ever, probably. Workload of a lot of players has to be factored in, especially when you're a team like Chelsea who are fighting in the Champions League and in other competitions. I get it. But I don't know.
It's gone very scientific. I mean, it has. And I said this to you before, like, now when a team scores a goal, they directly run over to the monitor to have a look at the goal, how it was scored. I just feel like there's so much science behind football now, and I think it's ruining the game. I'm all for, like, they do this periodization stuff where, you wear the heart rate monitors. I just think even towards the end of my career, it would be like, you might score a goal and you might play well, but you'd come off the pitch and they'd be like, well, you haven't run enough. Your sat-nav is saying you have only covered this amount of time and distance. And I think a lot of players actually are being signed now based upon science, as opposed to, your eyes don't lie, do they? You watch a game, I can see a player after 5 minutes, and any ex-player will tell you the same and see if they're good enough or not. You can tell by the way they move, you can tell by the way they manipulate the ball, their movements, you can just see it. Now, some players grow into themselves, but you can just see after watching a game. I can watch an under-12s game and be walking past it and think, oh, there's a player there. You can just see it. And I think right now there's a lot of science behind football. Players can't play this many games in a week and all that. I know football has become like more, let's say faster and the players having more games. But come on, you're a footballer. I'd love to have that many games because you know what? It means you don't train as much.
But also, does it not, if you're now seeing a manager's role diminishing ever so slightly, perhaps, does that not empower the players even more?
Oh, yeah, like I'm going to outlast him or her. I'm going to ride this one out because historically, Chelsea don't let a manager be in charge for longer than 2 years at a push. Manchester United, same thing. Tottenham, same thing. So if you have a manager that's not having you or a head coach, then you're going to think, I'm going to wait this one out. I've got a contract. Kobbie Mainoo, for example. I was thinking there was about a year ago, Ruben Amorim, after the Grimsby game, I thought he was going to go then. And I think Kobbie Mainoo was waiting for that moment because Kobbie Mainoo, let's be honest, should be playing for Manchester United. Regardless of what people think now, I'm not going to go down that route of people saying, well, there must be something in there because he isn't playing him. Like some managers just don't have players. And Ruben was never having Kobbie from when he first got there. Now, the reality is Ruben's now gone. Kobbie can come back in.
Yeah.
And we ain't going to... And that I like that because we don't want to sell our homegrown talent because we'd have sold him on and he'd have gone on to do amazing things and, he's a top player. So that's a whole other different conversation in itself. But I do think now players have a lot of power, a little bit too much power.
And also there's the question of respect and respecting your manager. And we talked about it earlier on. We had Chris Cowlin on, obviously Spurs fan, talking about the situation of Judge Spence and Mickey van der Ven when they ignored Thomas Frank when he was trying to shake their hands as they were coming off the pitch. We've also seen it recently in Real Madrid when they lost in the Super Cup to Barcelona and how Xavi Alonso wanted them to do a sort of
guard of honour.
Guard of honour, that's exactly it. And it was Kylian Mbappe who was like, no, we don't do that. And he was telling all his teammates to walk off.
Crazy.
To do that on the pitch when your manager is, obviously you've suddenly made your manager so very, very small, but it goes to show the power that is in certain dressing rooms that they feel that they can do that. And there's not going to be any action against that player, it feels.
And the fact that, I've had my disagreements with managers and coaches over the years, but it's been away from the training ground. It's always been in a meeting or something like that. And it's usually been a conversation. But at the same time, I've never would undermine. I've never played for anybody where I would never blank the coach. I've never blanked the manager. If I got subbed off, I would always shake their hand. I might not like it because no player likes coming off, but you would still shake their hand because at the end of the day, they are your manager. They are your coach. So you show them that respect. And the fact that Mbappe, the guard of honour, I don't like doing them. Nobody does, but you kind of do them. And the fact that Xabi Alonso wanted to do that and Mbappe pulled the players over and was like, we're not doing it. And all the players followed him, just about sums it up. Yeah. And then it was almost like inevitable Xabi Alonso was going to lose his job based upon losing the dressing room. He's a top manager. Look what he did with Bayer Leverkusen. He's a brilliant manager. But as we know at Real Madrid, they're very unforgiving. And I think the players have too much power now for sure.
Yeah, well, let's talk more about what's going on at Real Madrid, shall we? They have sacked their manager, Xavi Alonso, this week, now found themselves dumped out of the Copa del Rey even, amid talk of player power, as we've been saying, in the dressing room. Let's speak to the Spanish football expert from the Athletic, that's Mario Cartagena, that joins us to bring us the lowdown then. Mario, thank you very much for being with us. What is happening then? What's the latest with Real?
Hello, how are you? It's a pleasure to join you. Well, the main talking point around Real Madrid is just that, the little power that Alonso managed to have over these almost 8 months at Real Madrid and how Real Madrid, and especially the president, Florentino Perez, could have helped him to solve this situation.
Tell us about player power. How big is that at Real Madrid?
Well, it depends on the season and on the era, but we had a report, a detailed report back in October, just 3 days after Real Madrid won El Clásico against Barcelona, that created a lot of noise both inside and outside the club, pointing at that as a problem and a potential bigger problem. And this has proven to be the main problem for this new era, for the Xabi Alonso era, until the point that it has been one of the main factors for Alonso to be fired by the club. He wasn't able to control the dressing room. Sources close to the coach told the Athletic that the club has not helped him to solve this situation, and that Real Madrid have a dressing room with big egos and very difficult to coach.
I think for me, Mario, like when I see this, are you surprised at how quickly they kind of got Arbeloa in the job? Because it was like Xabi Alonso got sacked, got let go 48 hours ago. Now Arbeloa, another former Real Madrid player, is in charge at this football club.
Yeah, it has been in the table for some time. Since December, he was the chosen one, and it's a way that Real Madrid are using and are exploring from some time now. They use it the Castilla coach when Zidane, when Solari, when now with Arbeloa, and is the law for Real Madrid lately.
I mean, it's interesting because on paper, Mario, you look at where they are in La Liga. They're second. What are they? 4 points off Barcelona, that are also going well in the Champions League. They're seventh, so on course, as things stand, to finish in the top 8, to miss the playoff round. So in some ways you look at it and think, well, it's all going all right for Xabi Alonso. So is there more to it than just based on results and recent results as to why he lost his job?
Not only about the results, also about the style. Real Madrid have not been playing this rock and roll that Xabi Alonso said in his presentation day that he wanted Real Madrid to play. There have been also a lot of noise around the poor performance and results in the biggest match, semi-final, Club World Cup semi-final against PSG, first Madrid derby of the season, losing 5-2 against Atletico de Madrid, losing against Manchester City, losing against Liverpool. So there have been more issues, and also related with the physical condition of the squad. Florentino Perez, President Florentino Perez, wanted head of physical trainer and former head of physical trainer Antonio Pintus to have a more prominent role in the day-to-day at Valdebebas, while Xabi Alonso brought his physical trainer from Bayern Leverkusen.
So with Alvaro Arbeloa now in charge, are you going to see a different style of play, do you think?
I think his idea is not very far from what Xabi Alonso wanted to do, but Xabi Alonso wasn't able to do so. So the main question is whether Arbeloa is going to be able to do that, and how.
Mario, thank you.
Thanks
for
Mario.
Shedding light on all of that. Really interesting to know what's been going on at Real Madrid. That's from The Athletic, Mario Cartagena. Really fascinating. And as I say, if you haven't seen that footage of what happened for the Guard of Honour that didn't happen, it's worth checking out, because it's as you mentioned, it just undermines Xabi Alonso, and now we know what's happened since, but awful things to see.
Yeah.
Not what a manager wants to go through. And then they have to pretend like it's fine. It's no problem.
I know, and then literally 48 hours later, he loses his job.
Yeah. Okay, we've got a big weekend of Premier League action coming your way. You're tuning in to kick off. We're going to look ahead to that next. On talkSPORT with Ladbrokes, it's 18 and over. BeGambleAware.org. Kick-off on talkSPORT, and it is Lianne, Sanderson, Natalie Sawyer with you until 10. You've got the Sports Bar coming your way with Jason Cundy and Jamie O'Hara. Before we look ahead to what's to come in the Premier League and where we pick up maybe one or two games, just some interesting Thomas Tuchel quotes that have come our way recently when he's talking about the players he's going to select for his World Cup squad. He says there are two friendlies in March, as we know, coming up in that international break, that against Uruguay and Japan. And then we head into the end of the season where he will then have to pick his final squad for the World Cup, where England will face Croatia, Ghana and Panama. Really interesting what he had to say, because he's been talking about, okay, players obviously have to be in there for partly what they do on the pitch, but he's also talking about what they do off it. He says that the social skills of a player is just as important. Is he a good teammate? Can he support if his role is maybe the supporting role? And that is part of the focus for selecting his squad. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean,
makes sense.
It does, and that's why I think players like Jordan Henderson will be selected. Although, you know, people will be thinking in the 23 or 26 players, like, he shouldn't be in there. But, like, arguably, a coach isn't going to play, you know, you have your 16, your 11 that you're going to play, and then you have the few that you might bring in. But you need people that are okay almost with being on the bench. Now, I was never really that person. I'm not going to lie. I was a good teammate as long as I had enough time. Some coaches would let us know so late, Natalie, that you couldn't even process it. Sometimes I'd find out at training when my bib wasn't, like, my number wasn't there. Do you know what I mean? The man management in the women's game used to be so poor. Thankfully, it's got better. But it doesn't surprise me. Now, my only issue with this is being a good person and being a good person socially and all that stuff is subjective. Because there's been people that I've been around that people would say, like, when we got asked to choose our captain at England, we all did we chose who we thought we wanted to be, and that was quite good. Because I think at times people are chosen to be captains, for example, that none of us would ever choose. I played for some captains that I'm thinking, how has this even gone there? Managers have their favourites, you know, all those things. So again, you do pick people based upon, you'd like to think, being a good person as well as a good player. Are they good around the? Are they good around the squad? Are they good around the team? So to me, it's not rocket science that he said that, but it's subjective, isn't it? Because he's clearly not having Jude Bellingham.
Well, and you could definitely suggest that, it will be who he thinks is a good person, who is a good traveller in the team. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. He also went on to say we'll hopefully have 6 to 8 weeks together if we make it until the very end, he says. We need to find the right balance in the team and take it as an opportunity and take it as a dream coming true to be part of the World Cup and to play hopefully a major role is nothing else than a dream. He says it will demand a lot of our social skills, how we are together as a group, and we need to get the nomination right. And I do get where he's coming from.
Yeah.
But I think that should be more in any kind of building of a team, surely.
But you know what, Natalie, when you're away at a World Cup or a European Championship, it's a long time, you know.
Intense time.
And you sometimes you have to, as a manager and a staff, they have to get it spot on as well. Open and honest communication. I always found it quite difficult at tournaments when, you know, you'd have to go and do the blowout session when all the rest of your teammates would be going out with their families. You know, you have to get people that are okay. It's the same as having a third choice goalkeeper. That's a difficult role. Me as a player, there's a striker that's on the bench. I have a chance of potentially coming in. If you're going to a major tournament and you're third choice keeper, he might not choose the best 3. He might choose the third choice. Might be someone that's not okay with being on the bench. But do you get what I'm saying? Because I know that there's been squads that I've been a part of with England that they've not been the best squads. There's people that have been left out, based upon many other reasons. And you think, oh, how's that person been left out? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, it is subjective, but it's not rocket science because you are trying to put together the best squad and the best team. I mean, not to bring this up, but like Steve Holland at the last World Cup, look what happened with Ben White.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, Ben White, to be fair to him, didn't really come out and say anything. Whereas there was a lot of talk about there was something that happened and all that. And I was like, wow, like Ben White left a major tournament, and I like Ben White a lot, and that was it. No one really said anything, did they? So, I don't know. It's a give and take as well. Some coaches I've played under, they always talk about be a good person, be a good person. I'm like, you need to be a good person as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Let's look ahead to the weekend, shall we, in the Premier League action returning. There are 7 games on Saturday. Manchester Derby is the 12:30 kickoff. Then you've got a London Derby at 3, Chelsea Brentford, Leeds Fulham, Liverpool Burnley, Sunderland Crystal Palace. Another London Derby sees Tottenham take on West Ham. They're all 3 o'clock kickoffs. Game Day Live will keep you across those. And then you've got Forest against Arsenal as the 5:30. Then on Sunday, there are 2 games. Wolves against Newcastle. That's 2 o'clock. Aston Villa Everton is a 4:30 kickoff, and then Monday night we've got Brighton against Bournemouth. But on Saturday it all kicks off, as I say, with that Manchester Derby, which is live on talkSPORT. How are you feeling about that one? It's at Old Trafford.
Nervous. Obviously, Manchester City for me are far superior, but for some reason we always seem to do okay. Mostly at the Etihad against City when I least expect. But yeah, it's difficult. Difficult games for Michael Carrick to come in. You know, he's got City and Arsenal in his first 2 games. That's a big ask. But like, I think the expectation...
But in a way, quite exciting.
It is, but I think I don't feel excited. I feel more concerned and worried. Not because of Michael Carrick, but because of the squad. And I don't think these players know what... A lot of them, 80% of them, I don't think they know what it means to play for Manchester United in a derby. I don't think they get it. Bruno does, but I don't think a lot of them do.
You've got Ahmad and Burmo back. Does that inspire you a little bit more?
I like Ahmad. I like Mbeumo. But I think, you know, we need more from... Man United need more from Cunha, 100%. You know, I like him, but I don't think he's been anywhere near the levels that we bought him for. And I just think, like, we just have so many question marks in our back line. Like, Dalot, for me, isn't good enough. And, you know, but I wish Michael Carrick all the best. I'm going to obviously be watching the game, you know, as much as it pains me. But we never seem to get annihilated by City. It's usually Liverpool that seem to do that recently. So we'll have to see.
You've got to be optimistic then.
Yeah. I'm going to do what Cole said and take that mantra.
Exactly. Hope is a discipline. Was that what he said? Something like that.
Yeah.
Very quickly, I know we've talked about Tottenham already, but Spurs, West Ham, that does feel like it's a big game, obviously but for both clubs, I should say.
Yeah, big game. I mean, Nuno at West Ham in that relegation area. Tottenham, this is a massive game. Like, it's a massive London derby.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think, which team does it mean more to? I think you asked the fans both of them equally, but I think at this moment in time, if Thomas Frank loses to Tottenham,
West Ham,
loses to West Ham, there'll be a different story.
But if West Ham lose, they're already 7 points off Forest. Now, I know Forest take on Arsenal, so some might say that's a foregone conclusion for Arsenal, maybe. But that's a huge deficit already, 7 points.
It is. But
they've only won 3 games all season.
But I don't blame Nuno. I'm not blaming Nuno for this because it's been that way since they brought in every single manager since David Moyes. I sometimes say you have to be careful what you wish for because I know the fans weren't happy with what David Moyes was doing in his style, but since he's left, they've kind of gone downhill. The decision making, talk about football clubs, the decision making above.
Yeah,
I know the fans are not happy there, and I tend to agree with the West Ham fans.
Yeah, Lopetegui, Potter. Nuno, it's not been an easy ride, has it? As always, we have loads of live football for you this weekend. talkSPORT 2 brings you 4 championship commentaries this weekend. We've got West Brom against Middlesbrough. That's tomorrow night, followed by triple header on Saturday. Coventry, Leicester, Southampton, Hull and Swansea, Birmingham. And on talkSPORT, what a lunchtime feast for you. The Manchester Derby at Old Trafford, Michael Carrick's first game in charge. And our 250th commentary, by the way, of the season as well. And that's some way to reach 250. We are live from 11 at Old Trafford. And then Game Day Live will take you around the grounds from the Premier League, the EFL and beyond for all the key incidents from the 3 o'clock kickoffs. That begins at 2:30 with Adrian Dunn. That is it for us this evening, Lianne, as always. Thank you. I'll see you next weekend.
You will do.
Coming up next here on talkSPORT, of course, it is the Sports Bar. It's Jason Cundy and Jamie O'Hara. Get your calls into them.